started these last year. We're really trying to work on having parents sort of return to campus, spend a lot of time wanting to partner with you. And some transparency that I've said before, parents have moved into this place where they don't necessarily trust schools or what's happening in schools. I know that we try to cultivate a relationship. You guys are well aware of what's happening, and this is really our attempt to kind of pull back the curtain too, so you see how some of the decisions get made, as well as be participatory in that process as much as you possibly can. So we asked our participants last year, what are the things that you want to know more about? What would be beneficial for you? And so last year we talked about some things related to technology and sort of how we implement technology here and what that looks like. We also talked about a lot of different things related to curriculum and instruction. And we asked as we came into this year, again, what are the things you want to know more about? And so one of the things that we want to talk about today is volunteerism and sort of what that program looks like for us, how there have been some changes to that over the years, especially post-COVID, and working with a district who has an entire process that they use to screen volunteers and have them come on campus. I did want to give you an update for some of the things that have been happening here. We've had our first month of school. We've been in a hurricane just for giggles. We had our first, and I'm going to come back and talk about that in just a moment. We had our first Savannah Chat on board presentation yesterday. We go to the board twice a year and report to them on how we're doing. The first one is about fiscal stewardship and finance. The second one is typically about academic progress or academic success. So we went yesterday, we did it in September, then in March we'll go back and kind of talk to them about how we did last year. We still don't have CCRPI scores yet, so we'll talk about that with them as well as what our performance looks like throughout the year. So, and I can talk to you guys about anything related to budget anytime you want. Sports. Our first cross-country meet is this Saturday. It's the Islands Classic.
Islands Breeze.
Something. But it's at Island High School.
Some name.
It's a huge event. The way the district does cross-country, it's all of the schools that have a cross-country team show up. Sometimes that's at Daphne Park. Sometimes it's at Lake Mare. This one is at Islands High School, and it's actually middle grades and high school students. Not running at the same time, but there's a lot of activity, but it's a really great event. So if you care about running at all, or have ever run to or from something, then you might want to check that out. Yesterday was our very first softball game this season. We're the reigning champions for softball last year, and yesterday's game was a tie, 14-14. It was a slugfest. It was
Still recovering.
My head coach resigned this morning and then took it right back again because it was emotional for sure. So the girls did really great. All the parents that were out, thank you so much. It was a really fun time. TEMA typically has, and I'm not just saying this because it's our school, but we typically have the best support at athletic events, and that hasn't changed. Yesterday was wonderful. There was just an outpouring of parents there. The really great thing is students, so we had a lot of our former students that are now in high school come back, and they were there cheering the team on. It was really great. And we're playing this Sunday. So Chattanooga Valley, I'm sure all you guys know Chattanooga Valley, they are they're traveling, and I think the baseball team is traveling.
They travel in the spring, so the softball coach was like, I want to do that.
Right. Also, there's like a husband-wife rivalry thing, because I think the husband is the baseball coach, the wife's like, well, I'm taking the girl. So anyway, it's an opportunity for us to have a scrimmage at JC Park. We've never hosted a game at the park, which will be really exciting to see. A lot of fun. We have had a home run derby there, which is really great. So anyway, if you're going to be on the island on Sunday, want to have a good time, come check out softball. LYP, yes.
Oh yeah, football.
And we won, yes. So let me say, I just checked out on social media. All three of our TEMA students, it's not on the slide, so
well, these are upcoming.
All three of our students that are competing on the coastal team, which, by the way, if you guys don't know how that works, The one sport that we still partner with Coastal on is football. To start a football program means a lot of money, also equipment, a place to practice, and enough boys to like field a team. So all those things work against us with only 150 kids in middle school.
And half our girls.
Coastal is still great. And Allison and I go way back. We both worked on the west side when I was at West Chatham, and she opened Godley Station. We've known each other. When I went to STEM, she went to Coastal. So it's been great as a partnership for us, but all three of our boys that are on the team were on defense last night on the field, side by side at the same time. Amazing. And then we won. So,
and we won because of those three.
Well, it's funny you say that, Lacey, because when I was at STEM was the first time, because STEM also couldn't field a football team, it was the first time that we had ever done a partnership. And that year we partnered with Myers. And that year, Myers went to the championship. And they were like, well, hold on. Like, we don't know if it's really fair. And I'm like, the STEM kids are the kids that help you. Okay. But no, I completely believe that on the field last night, the only reason we won are those three team of boys on that team. So, yeah. So, LYP, we have a counselor corner in the newsletter. We have a lot of other information that comes out about our Liberty People program. But certainly there's a lot of things that we're doing for incentives to keep our students engaged with positive reinforcement of caring about each other, collaborating, being thankful, all of those things. And that is still moving forward this year. I'm going to say anything about that I have not said.
You'll see we're continuing the LYP MVP t-shirts. That is like a Student of the Month recognition in middle school that the kids get. And I love the kids are still wearing some from last year, and so we have a new one this year. So you'll see some of the kids wearing those as their uniform shirt. So it's super fun to see. And then lower school, we started a sticker you may have seen in Ms. Murray's newsletter. There's a little sticker that your child might come home with that says, I got caught loving my people. And so there's a little sticker for them that's a little more immediate. The upper kids, they're only awarded. Yeah. They're adorable. Yeah. So you may see some of those coming around. So yeah. And then clubs for upper school will start the 22nd. The kids actually... Yes, the teachers were informed of the club assignments late last night, and the kids will probably find out today, I imagine, definitely by tomorrow. And Buddies is going well. That's something new we've implemented this year. It seems like the kids like it. It's fun now to see when an older student runs into a younger student, crossing the street or something, they'll like high five or give them a hug or something like that. So that's really fun and seems to be bridging upper school and lower school a little bit. So
it's upstanders.
And then upstanders, which is I wouldn't say I'm not a part of, but I have not been involved in the planning of that. Ms. Murray, Ms. Holliday are starting an upstanders club, and that is a group of students who basically is what it says. They're going to, create a community of inclusiveness and, be there to help like conflict resolution and, just start to create a community of kindness. So. Mm-hmm. Yes. What would that be? So sometimes, and it could be different things depending on what the club is doing, what clubs are doing. So I plan to kind of send out an email, like I'm about to send one out soon to the club leaders, like, hey, what are you doing first club? Who needs an extra body? Like I know there's a rec sports club, and there's 2 teachers, and they have, I think, 25 kids, which is manageable, but it's also always nice to have an extra person down there or like, it happens sometimes. A child needs to go to the nurse. Well, one maybe has to walk them back, and then there's only one down there. So, especially with clubs, it's probably going to be the groups that are off campus needing someone extra to go with them, unless there's like a super messy activity. Somebody's like, we're paper macheing today. I don't know any club that would be doing that, clubs, but I need an extra hand to help me clean up or something like that. So I'll be soliciting that information probably a couple weeks before clubs to figure that out. So yeah.
Like if you signed up for it, would you have to know you'll be there like at every, like I know like my husband would probably like to help, but like, he does work so we can eat. So, so you probably couldn't do like all the time.
Oh, just one.
So,
Yeah, no. If he has
like, if you
a
could, like,
Friday that
so
you.
like would you call in like last week, like, yeah, we need someone extra.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could put a plea out there kind of thing. Yeah, but there is a sign up. But yeah, if he knows ahead of time. But if it's empty, he can also check the sign up and see like, there's one more spot left. Because I sent another email about that last night to another group of volunteers too, in case any of them wanted to pick those up. And there's still a lot of spots there left, so lots of opportunities. Yeah, or so people can plan ahead. Yeah. So.
Nothing to see here.
With legs.
That was a good question. Thank you. 10th anniversary. So when do we close out the t-shirt order?
The 8th, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So if you don't have a 10th anniversary t-shirt, it will close tomorrow. Is that in the newsletter link to that?
Yes, there's a newsletter link, and I think it's been on the Facebook page too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do I have any middle school moms, dads here? Yeah. I'm serious. So my daughter just went from 8th grade to 9th grade. She was aghast that Islands will not let you wear a t-shirt for a uniform. And I was like, honey, welcome to high school. And she was like, no, Dad, that's Savannah Chatham. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting into that with you. It's high school. So yes, if it says Tima anywhere on the shirt, it's a uniform shirt for us. It's absolutely fine. Now, if they come to school and it's not, like, they can't take a Sharpie and be like, Tima. No, it's not.
Someone definitely tried.
Although props for like trying to figure that out. But yes, if it's something that is like the fishing tournament t-shirt.
Yeah, the ones we sell as fundraisers for sure.
Absolutely.
Anything that we sell as fundraisers. And then navy blue or light blue if it says Tima is good.
Yeah.
Like if you get it or.
And we will have some for sale at the event, but minimal amounts. So if you want one, it would be better to pre-order it.
Yeah, pre-order.
We asked her to see if we ordered. I can't remember if I ordered them.
Oh, I can probably.
We can look it up in Square. You can email me or Noelle. We can. Yeah.
And there is an event scheduled that day. It's going to be under the flagpole, weather permitting, on September 28th. During the presentation yesterday to Savannah Chatham, we of course invited them. They're getting formal invitations by close of business this week, but the more formal invitations are going out to a lot of the community representatives. We've reached out to former board members that helped open TEMA, all of it sort of a soft launch for them. I believe that was last week or maybe even the week before. And so formal invitations forthcoming for that event to everybody else, but it's also in the newsletter, and of course all of our parents are invited to come out and see what's going on that day. There will be a very brief event outside, then we're going to move inside. There's going to be some student presentation and a walking tour. So, make it a whole day of it if you want to. Front porch, last call for tickets. You want to talk more about that?
It is a family-friendly show at Front Porch, which is on Victory and I don't know, it's like Barnard maybe. If you haven't been there before, it's a cute little theater, holds 100 and some people. So make sure you get your tickets because I think they're dwindling. Mm-hmm. And then we'll have some raffle items, and I think there's some students going to be involved in that show. Mm-hmm. From our Improv Club.
Front porch will
like
take
that.
like the first 45 minutes, and then the students will do the last 15.
Yeah.
We'll have a raffle. They have 30 minutes of socializing time. They open up early. They're donating the space and their time. Mm-hmm. So they generate revenue with drink sales from 5:30 to 6. And we have the location from 6 to 7, and then it's out for them to do their show for the evening.
Yeah.
But very generous of them.
And a good time.
And of course, we have a governing board meeting on the 25th, but that one is remote. Yes.
I'm not 100% sure if we're doing dial-in or not.
Okay. It's
I
happening
think,
on the 25th
yeah,
for sure.
it may be available for dial-in for board members, but I don't know for public comment. But we will live stream it. Yeah, we had some serious technical difficulties that day, like the internet quit working, and so we triaged. Yeah, no. I will always post the link on Facebook right before it goes live if we're streaming, and the plan is to stream all of them, barring any unforeseen.
What's the possibilities of having it in other places outside of Facebook?
So yeah, it's always on our YouTube page.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
you can subscribe to the
Yeah. And then you'll get a notification. So that's probably just always go to that. We can try to include the link to our YouTube with the meeting announcement in the newsletter too, just to remind people. But it's on our website in the social media upper hand corner. You can click on that. So awesome.
maybe the tick on nights of board meetings. I don't know. Pretty.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah, we have the new alert banner at the top.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We can add it up there.
That's the way to do it.
I know. Right. Yeah.
Anybody HTML5? No.
I'll add it to my pre-checklist of board meetings. It'll be great.
So really quickly, and I would normally say this for this Disco Inferno, but
We still have 40.
you're going to be up in like 3 minutes. We have a hurricane. So I have really been very conservative with talking about whether or not we do remote learning. Because the model that we do with project and problem based it's not really served well by remote learning. Also, and I'll say this on camera for Laura to record, the academic worth of an e-learning day is very suspect to me. And so when I see a lot of calendars that have a lot of e-learning days in them, and I also am aware of the performance of schools that have a lot of e-learning day, I get concerned that this is not the best approach to constructing a calendar. However, we had a lot of discussion on the executive team as the storm was approaching and really wanted to think about the fact that it was August and the entirety of the potential for the storm season. Lee's out there somewhere right now. And sort of where we were in thinking about days that we would either have to make up or get to be forgiven. And once the governor declared the state of emergency, when we started planning this, he had not declared a state of emergency yet. South Carolina did before us, and I was like, so I'm going to call the governor and see what's up, right? So I was like, okay. But until the governor declares a state of emergency, I can't approach the board and ask for days to be forgiven. And we were looking at potentially 2 or 3 days. The district already had announced that Friday was going to be an e-learning day for them. That was with their calendar way back. I think many of you know that we have also tried to work on a memorandum of understanding with the district, and we're going to finalize that this year about what nutrition services looks like when we're on a different calendar. And many of you are aware of kind of what happened over the summer. Well, not summer for us, anyway. So, with a lot of things that were happening, and then looking at what the potential for asking our board to forgive days, and that we had a power line down in our drop-off on Thursday, and no idea what was happening with power on the island, which, by the way, on Friday, if you're a resident on the island, you know this, it was kind of rolling outages on Friday for timing. We could have been in school, it would have been not fun. We elected to do a second remote learning day. A lot of the reason for that is because I don't have to go back to the board and say, hey, can you forgive 2 or 3 days that we missed by not having our students here, which they could, but again, it's August and September, and I'm trying to get us to November 1, right? So, that's how we ended up with e-learning days. Don't anticipate we're going to do a lot of those because, again, I'm very concerned about the academic worth of an e-learning or a remote learning day. Not that your kids aren't like doing great on remote learning. But even our own data, when we tried during the pandemic to do a lot of really progressive things with remote learning, was hit or miss. So that's not the best solution for us, but it was a solution that we could employ, which meant that I didn't have to say, hey, you can't have a full week at Thanksgiving this year, you can only have 3 days. Sure. But that's the rationale that went into it. I want you guys to know that in case there's any question, like, why are we remote learning? Well, a lot goes into it. The rest of this, before we get, do you have
I was
something?
just saying, I was really impressed with the amount of like material that they put together, especially in younger grades. And because again, I'm not always a huge fan of the iPads, you know. And so it was nice when I saw Connor and Hayden come back, which is first and third. No iPads brought home, but they had printouts, sheets of paper, and what they kids could do, and they kept them busy for a couple of days. And I felt like this kind of came on them really quickly, so for the teachers to be able to put that together.
Yeah.
I thought it went well for this e-learning versus the ones we've experienced in the past. So.
Thank you. I will pass that on. We started these conversations obviously on Monday. By Tuesday, we were in the throes of team meetings, telling everybody like, this is really like, be ready. We're communicating this to families. This is what we're saying. We also didn't know what the impact of the storm was going to be. Chatham County is 420 square miles. So would people have power? Would they have access to like technology, not technology? Like, you know, what could be the worth of something that someone is doing? So I will share that. We had a lot of really productive conversations with our colleagues about making sure that it was something of value that kids could do that wasn't necessarily reliant on them being on a device. If they could, that's fine. But if they weren't, then what could they have, you know, the ability to do? We also didn't have a remote learning day on Thursday because at that point we weren't really sure if we were going to call it for Friday or not. And so students are not penalized for the time that they were not really supposed to be doing schoolwork on Thursday. If that wasn't clear, sorry about that. But I mean, I expected people were going to be getting trees out of their yard or off their porch or whatever. I'm just talking about staff members at this point. But students are not penalized. Like, they actually have until I think this Friday to turn in. Like, we're trying to be exceptionally mindful of the fact that it was a disruption to everybody's life. Regardless of how you were impacted, it did kind of shift things. And so teachers are trying to communicate with students directly and maybe some parents like, hey, it's okay if this isn't done. Don't let it linger. We're still doing other schoolwork when we got back, but they're not going to be adversely impacted if they weren't able to get it done during that time because everybody had something different that happened. Some people even did the voluntary evacuation, right? So, you know.
Ours went really smooth too with our teachers, and they kept in contact with us, emails. They had like other activities the kids could do to keep learning. It was a lot. I mean, Islands, who I don't know how your daughter did, but who expected to have an e-learning day, for my sophomore son, it was a bit of a dumpster fire.
Yeah, she did not enjoy that.
It was like
experience
7 platforms, and you had to like
Right.
find where your assignment was, and then he'd find it after all these passwords, and then he's like, I don't know how to turn it on. It was like,
Oh man, that's so frustrating.
it was, yeah. So everyone else, it was great.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Yeah, it was real
Okay.
smooth.
Well, thanks for the feedback. I'll certainly share
Yeah.
that. If you're a parent of a child who has an identified special need, we actually did something a little extra for those families too, in accordance with their distance learning plan. So I'd love to hear if there's any feedback on that too. But I mean, really, I'll say it one last time. I don't know that e-learning days are like the best, right? For sure, for kids or what they need. But if we're going to have to be in that situation, I really want to do it as well as possible. So I'll take the feedback and share it. So thanks everybody. Okay, Miss Ingram.
I'm ready.
I'm gonna finally be quiet.
All right, so I think I know most of you in the room, lots of familiar faces. But if not, I'm Noelle Ingram. I'm the Director of Engagement, which is a new title for TIMA this year. I was gonna say me, but just TIMA in general. I also am Athletic Director, which is kind of held under that Director of Engagement, and I'm the Testing Coordinator and the Gifted Lead, and I do some stuff with like funding and FTE. So lots of different hats. But Director of Engagement is new this year because, you know, after COVID, kind of, parents weren't really allowed back in the building for a little bit, and then we started. Engagement has been, in the past year or so, like a little bit of a struggle. We really want to bring volunteers, and we've heard you guys want to be back in the building, so sometimes we need somebody to organize that a little bit. So, however, like I said, I see a lot of familiar faces here, and I know there are some people who can't always make it into the building, but a lot of people already know the importance of volunteers. And so we didn't want to talk at you and tell you things you already know, but kind of more have this as an open discussion about why volunteerism is specific to you and to Tima, and how it is unique here. So we're going to start with a little bit of an open discussion. So why is volunteering important here? Why do you guys feel like volunteering is important?
The charter schools, we don't get all the funding that other schools get. We don't get a lot of extra teachers or paras or
Yes.
extra people.
Yes, having those extra hands sometimes is something that we don't always have. That is absolutely true.
I think kids work harder too. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. That's good. I'm totally the bad student.
Work harder.
Yeah, it needed a partnership, right, between school and home, so that's really.
Yes, that is very true.
Volunteering builds community as well, and relationship, right? So the more you're present, I think the more comfortable you get with the people that are here. And the students be, have very comfortable with you, so I think it just kind of opens up a lot of communication, relationship, like the community is crucial with this, so. It's full encouragement.
And another reason I left off to have this is because you guys will probably think of some things that we couldn't, and creating this presentation we may have left out. So yes, building community, partnership, all of those things. How about to you personally? Are there any other reasons to you personally why volunteerism is important? My love language is service, so I will tell you that that's one of the things, for me, that why volunteerism is important. But anybody else?
It gives me the first-hand knowledge of what's going on in school, and I think that we do
That is very helpful to the teachers as well sometimes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Any other?
really enthusiastic. Well,
So I want to be as close as possible. But I just believe that it connects with all of the other parents and to know that, like in the last school that we were at, there was inspiring, there was no community, there was no like getting to know and be friends with the other parents. It's just like, oh, right, well, I have to check this box off. So yeah, creating this community is really important for me. So that my kids like they
And so that kind of goes back to like, yes, you get this out of it, but the school also
Yeah.
helps that. So, it's part of it.
I think for me, and also kind of puts things in perspective, or at least a different perspective. He said, I think we all know this fantastic school. And it's like a joke, so that I can't.
I think if y'all opened a college, all of us would enroll.
Literally into curriculum. But I think when you're here, you begin to see and appreciate,
You guys have gone past high school.
that maybe you don't really are able to kind of put in perspective, or you don't see it when you're not here, right? I mean, I think this year, last year, for example, and we were cleaning out this gymnasium and the storage closet, just because we came first, and the state sweeper center was shut behind. And but I found it incredibly impressive and super humbling that there were a couple of teachers that were super ecstatic. They were leaving their wagons behind and were getting a storage closet for space. Mind you, they were sharing with another teacher and a copier. And they were ecstatic about it. I thought these are really incredibly gifted and qualified teachers who love what they do and are doing a fantastic job with a very limited resources, but yet
show the culture and the community that we have here, and the sacrifices that, you know, some you gotta give a little to get a little sometimes, right? Anybody else want to chime in? Oh, yeah. How about to our students? Why do you think volunteerism is important to our students? Now, probably a lot of it goes back to here, right? So we heard building community. Kids sometimes will work harder, behave better, right? When there's more parents in the room, they know some different eyes are watching them. They have an audience, maybe. Why else?
I know my kids are like, are you volunteering for this? And they just want their parents to see them taking their role. And plus they also just like my kids are, I've always liked so like, they're used to it, but some of their friends aren't, right? Like, I mean, I've always worked for nonprofits, so I'm like, we're going to do this fundraiser. So, them being able to share that with their friends by seeing their other parents volunteer too was good. Like, triggers something to my brain. And also they get to know their restaurant.
Yeah. So it absolutely setting good example in learning community, but what about too, we have a lot of volunteers that'll come in and do presentations from the community, that may be people who don't have children here. Right. Why do you think that is important to our schools?
I mean, they're getting to know the community like outside of these, you know, these four walls, for lack of a better term. And they're getting to see like the opportunities. I know you guys do a lot of like job shadowing and like that kind of stuff to see like, okay, well, what you're learning here actually has like real life value. That's something Lydia and I talk a lot about. Like, you might not need to know trigonometry, but like you're gonna learn it and you're gonna pass the test, and then you can go back to science stuff. But like getting to see that, and then I know for Lydia, like it's really important to like see me involved and like, okay, I care just as much about your schooling as what like we're telling you to care about your schooling, so we're gonna show up and be there for you. So I think that's really cool and like important to our kids.
Kids feel really important too. I mean, they notice like somebody takes time out to be there for them, whether it's a parent or just like, makes them feel special.
Yeah, when I show up, all the other kids are more excited to see me than my son. So I actually asked, do you want me to keep coming? You know, or are you embarrassed by me? And he was like, you know, keep coming. But he just plays cool.
Doesn't get any better as they get older.
Right.
And also, you do have
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and it shows like that sacrifice that you value education.
Yes.
That's a strong message.
And, you know, getting that expert knowledge sometimes from something, you know, speaking back to people, you know, coming in to present, partner a lot with like Manomet, the bird, shorebird people. So getting that expert knowledge too is something kind of unique that teachers regurgitating something. And then to our children, I think we've hit a lot of these points, right? They get to see you guys are interested and involved, and you know you're setting an example for them. Anything else we missed? Very good discussion. Yes. So we mentioned that sometimes volunteering is a little bit different here, because one, we don't necessarily have the funding and stuff like that. We have to work, bring in some volunteers to have more bodies in the building and things like that sometimes. But also, you know, our projects, our curriculum is different. So we also rely, like I said before, on expert knowledge and things like that when we're working with our projects. So, for example, some of the benefits for students that we have seen are with our community partners. So a lot of them are volunteers. One example would be a partnership with the UGA Marine Extension. Middle school has done a lot of work with oysters. So they're actually, Mr. Bliss is actually a parent here also. Tybee Oyster Company. Some volunteering. But they learned about, you know, oysters and filter feeding and the benefits for the water and things like that. So, and I'm sure you're, Savannah Boathouse, fourth graders for the past 2 years have taken a trip there. They've done different projects, actually. I think that project changed from one year to the other. But the kids being able to go to these places and see different things that maybe they haven't been to before, but also bring in that expert knowledge around the maritime community too. And they just get an idea of different careers. First-hand example, my mom was a teacher, and I'm a teacher because part of it, I mean, I love what I do, don't get me wrong, but like, I wasn't exposed to a ton of other careers either. So, I don't know what would have happened if I had been, but.
Super.
But I grew up in a school, I was always like the kid drawn on the board after all the kids had left. So subject matter experts, we've hit that a few times, but we've seen that again. For example, last year, third grade, I don't know if anybody went to their amazing production that they did. It was incredible. The teachers actually wrote the whole thing. But they Zoomed with a costume designer, and they got to Zoom on set with that person was actually also a parent here, and get to see what a set looks like and costumes and all the thought and process that goes into that. So that was a pretty unique experience. I'm not sure that many other schools that have gotten to do that. So super cool. So another great benefit to our students is kind of see behind the scenes there and get those career connections. And then support and resources to teachers, room parents, right? You guys are all important. I know there's a couple of you in here. Helping plan celebrations that teachers might just not have time for, right? That benefits our students, or a culminating activity for a project. Helping just being that behind the scenes person that helps, just make things a little bit better for the students. And getting the other parents in the class engaged too. That's a lot of work sometimes too, just reaching out to other people and getting everybody organized and being supportive. Positive role models, something that has come up a lot in our discussion already. So having additional positive adults can be a very powerful example, right? Having more people there, that's something we definitely addressed earlier in our discussion. And then communication, these last few are definitely something we've already hit on, but just to reiterate that education matters, you have to sacrifice your time, we're building community. So all of those benefits, yes, that we've discussed are definitely benefits here for TIMA students, and that culture and community is very, very intentional and important part of what we do here at TIMA. So, over here. And then, what we also already talked about, building that community connection is something that we are striving for, and obviously trying to put a lot of time into this year, and to bring that back, that parent, teacher, just TIMA relationship. So we need to be, we thought we needed to be intentional with that this year. And then, inside the school life, I think Ms. Thompson said, I like to be able to see for myself instead of hear from my second grader. To actually understand what's going on, what is the purpose of this project? Where's this going? They're not just playing with paper and building a bridge and what's it for, right? It actually has a connection and a purpose. And then just seeing how the day-to-day flow. It's not just us. So another part of discussion, because we want your feedback, because many of you are here a lot. How can we even make this better as we go through this year? So what motivates you to sign up? I know we've heard some of it, but specifically when I throw out a sign-up genius, what motivates you to sign up? Or when you see it in the newsletter, or
I like specifics.
Okay.
You're gonna be doing this. And I'm trying to do that as a room mom. I think I used to be very basic, and now I'm very specific. Bring these supplies, do this, you'll be here for here, and there's no
yeah, okay. because this is very helpful because this is how we're moving forward, and this feedback I would, will help myself
I
or
just
just everybody.
that's what I like. I would rather it
Okay.
be, of course, like if you need something, whatever, I'll come. But if I know specifically, okay, I'm going to be there for 2 hours, I'm going to do this, and then I'm out of there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
I
I know that I've heard from some of my friends who are single working moms, and just working whatever, that they almost feel left out, that they can't be there, for the school time stuff, or one who's a teacher and that's a camp or whatever. So I also think having things like, you can send us stuff in to help, like classroom snacks, things like that, that way they at least feel like they are contributing and can be a part of it.
Yes.
Like one will complain, we're always signing up for the stuff, and by the time I get to sign up and get on board, it's already taken, which is a good problem to have.
Right.
But for those of you who can't be here in person, we always need these supplies.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is where in our like that. About the rate of pay.
Or like gift cards, like I said, like last year, like extra money for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
That's a great idea.
the field trips, I felt like, a lot of times we're finding out about them like 2 weeks before, and I'm thinking,
Right.
So I think also maybe that, like, for the parents to have to arrange, like, to get off work, to be able to go on a field trip or whatever, if they can kind of go ahead and know a month in advance if possible,
Right,
things like
right.
that.
It's not that we just to pay for them. Like, I know Maggie went on a field trip last year. And we had time to pay for it. But there was also mention of like doing class fundraisers for it. And I think, like for me, that was a huge, it was like, oh.
Right.
And so yeah, being able, and I'm working with the super on that too, to really be able to see the whole year plan, maybe not the exact dates, but like to know, okay, yeah, in April, I'll be able to commit this. That way I can arrange, like, really just being able to commit time. I can do it, but I have to have
Right.
a lot of
Advance
time.
notice.
Yeah. So that I can move on.
Well, I feel like,
And also maybe, like I've done this informally when we've been able, sometimes the belt gets tightened a little, but, if it's a $5 field trip, I'll send it to them and be like, cover another kid.
Yes.
But, maybe also let people know, like, hey, if you have, exact change or whatever, people put it towards a kid who doesn't afford it.
Right. Yeah. And we have multiple parents who will do that a lot. And
Can I talk about this?
of course, absolutely.
First of all, thank you, because this feedback that you're giving collectively is kind of some individual feedback that we got as we went through the year last year. We scaled back field trips a lot. Just as a reminder, when we contracted with Kelly Tours, there was an expectation that they would provide trips for us and that was negotiated in. So we are, I won't say on the hook, but we are definitely abiding by the contract to ensure that we're offering those trips through Kelly Tours so that we're all doing our due diligence with what we contracted for that service. That being said, we have to be very cautious about making field trips fundraisers. So saying something like rounding up, we would probably be okay with, for sure. But I can't charge a lot of extra, nor would I say, oh, this trip is only $5, let's charge parents 20. Like, no, we can't do that from, like, our auditors would go crazy. So we have to be like very to the dollar, at least what the anticipated cost is. However, parents in the past have definitely come up and said, hey, I'm gonna pay for somebody else to go. That's always very generous and we're grateful for that. We have also had people through our maritime fund last year, which we haven't really kicked off this year, but we did have someone say, listen, I'm giving X number, thousands of dollars, set it aside for a scholarship for parents that need help and support for field trips. Kind of happened mid-year. We didn't advertise a lot of that because it is challenging for us to say, hey, we have all this scholarship money if you guys can't make it work. But that is an avenue that we're working on communicating out so that everyone is aware. I've also started signing off on field trips as like truly since the beginning of school this year for field trips in April, field trips in March. Like we are definitely scaling out our calendar so everybody can be prepared and so we get that information out. So all of those things that you're saying, we are working on. I'm super grateful that it sounds like it's still top of mind for a lot of our families. It was top of mind for us. For us to get that feedback was very humbling for us to say, okay, yeah, it is a heavy lift. I thought it was a heavy lift. I have 3 kids here, or I did last year, and I was like, babe, like this is like we're asking parents a lot because I'm a parent too. So it's really good to like consistently hear from you guys that this area that we're trying to work on is something we still need to be working on. So please monitor that. I'm happy for any continued feedback about how we're doing there. But yes, those things about looking at how things are costing families and what we can do to kind of offset that, we're absolutely taking serious. So thank you.
I mean, our class just sent out like a little questionnaire, like a job form questionnaire, and it was like, here's a field trip that we think we're gonna do. It was like $130 or $150, and then it was like, if you have a suggestion for a cheaper field trip, like if you need help, how much would you need help, and that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's really cool. I mean, like Lydia didn't have any field trips at Olive Hope, but I was like, that's a really cool thing to do for parents who maybe do need help and don't want to be like, hey, pick me, I need help. So even as like classrooms, I think we could do like funds and that kind of stuff. That's what we talked about doing, is just like telling Miss West, like if you need somebody else to be covered, like we'd be happy to. So doing stuff like that, like classroom based, maybe like the teachers are usually more tuned in to like who needs help, and like you guys are. I mean, I know you know, but.
No, but I mean operationally, I mean I talk to colleagues a lot. Like let's not nickel and dime parents. Like asking for $5 every 2 weeks is nuts. Like parents can't budget that way. It's not a good operational communication method. Like we don't need to do that. We can definitely decide on how we're going to be doing things. The unit that we're teaching is typically 9 weeks long. We know the partnerships we want. We know the field trips that will be aligned to that. Let's go ahead and scale that out. Talk to families. This is what we need. We're done, right?
Right.
But soliciting feedback is something we also talk to our colleagues about. Like, hey, if you're going to do a big trip, let's talk to our families about what's manageable. Let's talk about how we can do that, right? So it's good to know that I think those kinds of things are happening. You guys probably all know this. I don't micromanage my colleagues. It's really important to me that they feel empowered to do the things that are really good for kids. They're very good at that, by the way. So, but it does mean that sometimes communicating is something that we have to all get on the page on at the same time, so that families still see that unified approach to what their kids are getting. So thank you for that. Yes.
Is there anything that we could do kind of like electronic QR code kind of thing for field trips? I am not a cash carrier, and then I go in and I have to like go big Tim. Like I know this sounds like it's such a problem. I get it. But my point is, it is tough sometimes. I don't always have cash. I hate having to write a check. And I'll go get it. I was just curious, since we're kind of going in that direction now that we have like the store and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, would it be any way that, because we all know we live by our phone.
Yeah.
Our thoughts and our credit cards. I was really curious if there was any
We have talked about doing a field trip page, but a lot of that is just our like rough start with the new secretary.
Yeah,
And
Lacey, I mean,
yeah.
somebody asked me for cash the other day. I was like, you mean cash app? They're like, no cash. I'm like, what are you saying?
Yeah.
Paper? I don't have. What are you? Like, I don't know that. Venmo? Like, right. So
Yeah.
yes, I got it.
That is a this year goal. No, that was the plan, was to have it up and running before the school year, but we've just been. Now that we have Miss Brown here, I think we have more bandwidth.
So we have a new secretary. If you guys want to all meet Miss Brown on the way out, please do that. She's very excited. It's her second day. Don't scare her.
So maybe not all of us stop in at once.
I'm not coming back. Definitely ask for something when we show up.
Yes.
But yeah, and so I think you guys know this. Like the website launch took a little bit longer. We didn't have a secretary for a while, so that was all Miss Fleming doing both jobs, 4 jobs, 7 jobs. So she's down to
I know
5.
you already listed your 5, so.
Yes. But like again, perfect feedback. We started talking about that last year. We know that's a solution we need to embed. We're working on it. But thank you.
No, thank you.
You need help with that, I know what I'm learning.
Talk to Laura before we leave. It'd be awesome.
know more details is important. I'm on board with that. I can do that. But you know, finding out about volunteer opportunities or getting the message out there. School email.
That's my go-to. If I need anything, I go to the weekly email.
The newsletter.
Like,
Putting it in the
yes,
newsletter.
yes,
I do too. I do too.
And
Flag
the
'em
links
every
to that's my like go-to. Like I love Remind because that reminds me things. But if I have to find something,
Yes.
I never go to the website.
Yep.
I always go to my text.
And I love there's links already there, like,
Yes.
that's.
Yep.
And I feel like the website's even more confusing. Like that newsletter to me is how I like.
Yep. No,
Schedule, yeah.
I know what's going on.
Okay.
I agree.
I can find where.
That's easy.
Yeah.
I can do that. How about, so this year, you know, we had the parent interest form and people signed up for different things that they're interested in volunteering for, which I feel like has been very successful and effective. I have certain groups I can email for certain things. So I make sure people are getting, you know, notice of the opportunities. So that separate email, so like for example, to lunch volunteers, it was in the newsletter, but I also sent a separate email, and I think Laura may have also sent a separate email.
I think it's a super good idea.
But sending those specifics to that group, so putting it in more than one place.
Yes.
Any other different communication, any ideas?
Not an idea, but I love the option to add things on calendar. Like whenever you set up a meeting for someone, send us like an invite.
The invites.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how that would work, I'm just saying that.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Love it.
Perfect. All right, and then, yeah, and then you can say that
Yeah.
or not.
And you know, if you sign up for Sign Up Genius, you can also select Add to Calendar from Sign Up Genius, which is really nice. Yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Like, just learn that.
It actually sends a .ics in the email confirmation. Yeah.
But what also with Sign Up Genius, it does send you usually an email if you have that set up the day before or whatever.
That's really helpful.
I said I would do that. Yeah. So that's super helpful, and I prefer Sign Up Genius too. I do really like that. I do like a calendar invite too because it puts it on my calendar. But I can email everybody. Like if you were signed up for a lunch volunteer, you got the lunch volunteer kind of to do whatever, you know,
Which is nice, by the
expectations,
way.
whatever, and I could just send that to everybody who had signed up. So that was really nice. Makes things.
Well, I actually love lunch volunteering. I really do. It honestly.
Chicken and waffle day.
I know, yes. Really, I have yet to be able to volunteer. Still, next week will be my first time, so way to go, all of you volunteer.
You got shut out.
I did. That's a great problem to have.
She said she would never do chicken and waffle day again last year, so I think that's why she did that.
I think she's right. The syrup just is a game changer.
Surprisingly clean.
It was,
Yeah.
it was fun at the end.
I do, you know, I, last year, you know, being the first year that we were doing it, we were kind of just showing up and having a good time and kind of doing what we think we needed to do. So I appreciated that you kind of had more detailed, like what their expectations were. Expectations for,
She
yeah. Or I did that, the expectations kind of like, hey, this is when these grades will be here, this is where they'll sit, this is what.
Oh, no,
That
no.
was really, that was far more detailed than, because we were winging it last year. And I do like to wing it, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, we want to make it something that more people want to do. You're a unique contributor. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's not, after I got that, I got a little nervous, I was like, they're figuring it out.
I think Lacey walking around with rubber gloves like, down to her elbows on syrup day is like
And the
permanently
middle schoolers,
embedded.
little cleaning this year.
Yeah.
Middle schoolers, they clean like middle schoolers, but.
Awesome tip from my one experience being in parent lunch. The middle schoolers need to be on calendar.
They did it. Yesterday was much.
Where's their chart? Did you?
Yeah, so we instituted KP this year
That's
for
right.
the middle
That's
grades.
beautiful.
And they have, microwaves are coming back and they're like, they have this whole chore list that they're all sharing now that they have to do. It's great, and the teachers have been training them and holding them accountable, and so that is.
Yeah. You see their look at their cart back there.
They have a whole little system. They need a little more training. The spray bottles are a lot of fun.
Right, like
Yeah.
you for your flowers, you for your wipers, you for your. But the fifth grade was awesome. Yeah, it was.
You can never be too late, come on.
You can also never be too middle school, which they
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, thank you, because that definitely is something that we were also mindful of.
I was like, I'm not doing lunch.
And then how much advance notice? So like, I know I heard like a month is a little better than 2 weeks sometimes.
So I've been on both ends of the spectrum, because last year I was salaried full-time, and I needed a month's notice because I had to actually take PTO.
Right,
And I couldn't do it any other time. Now I'm like, minimum 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ideally. I think is the best.
Yeah, I think the sooner the better. And like you guys do a good job on the newsletter, like reminding us. Like, I mean, I've known about like the front porch improv night for like ever, and like the beach night. Like we knew about that like before school even started. So like having that like, hey, it's on here, it's coming up, this is going on. So like if there was that option to do for like volunteering, I think that'd be really cool. So just like as soon as we know about something that needs to happen, like
Although I
getting
will say
notified.
one thing about the beach thing is, I have to remind people I knew personally because we moved.
Right, yeah,
So,
that,
and so,
specific.
you know,
Yes.
maybe like the day before the public safety quarter, we should have probably been like, oh yeah, guys, don't forget, this is still happening.
The beach event was the most fun, terrifying thing I've ever been in. Because it was a school event, right? So technically there's some culpability on the school for hosting an event on the beach with no lifeguards. And I'm sure you guys are aware of this thing that happens with diffusion of responsibility. And what it is you get a lot of parents and they're chatting and having really appropriate beach beverages, which is fine. And they're talking to each other and their kid is out there. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure. I gotta go. This is crazy. Cornhole was fun. Dizzy Bat was the best. But it was a really great event. But absolutely, we had to change it, and it is one of those things where anytime we have to change an event, we're like, it's got to communicate with that.
Well, like I said, Noelle, when she was like, let me see, I just realized this is an unpermanent event. I was like, it's okay, we'll just take the same punishment as the Orange Crush people.
Yes.
You're doing, and I did read about permits, and it said, if you're doing normal beach activities,
You don't have to have
you
a
don't have a permit.
Okay,
So,
good.
we were doing normal beach activities.
Yeah.
And can't you mitigate responsibility by saying the school is responsible from blank to blank time, and then after the time, it's whatever you want? Like,
You
and
would
you
be
have
really
to
surprised what the Georgia statute says. Nope. No. We advertised it. We invited people. Anyway, like I said, the most fun.
That's a whole nother Harry plug.
And we'll probably do it again. So there you
I
go.
hope so.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And what type of volunteering do you think people prefer? Is there anything we're missing? And we've expanded our options reach a little bit this year.
I prefer opportunities for me to see what you mentioned.
Yeah.
So a question, I think Lacey or somebody said that you couldn't sign up for lunch because it was full for like X amount of weeks or whatever. So my daughter comes home and tells me all these crazy stories about recess, which I love hearing them, but they make me really anxious. Is there a way to like open up volunteers for recess or like all the time?
Right.
You're
not gonna be around and hang out.
And when we were having issues in first grade, they kept being like, do y'all want me to come to the playground and help you? Like, what do you need? And it's like, what? Like a 20-30 minute thing, and then, you know, for your class, but maybe you help the next class too, or whatever.
Yeah, and just be at the park. that you
Yeah.
would get them there.
Because recess is blocked with lunch, right? So could there be two, like, sessions, and it's like recess, lunch, like they are at the playground and then they transition again? Like, I don't know what the schedule's like, but my thing is that she's talking to a lot of kids that aren't at her school. She's like, today I played with baby, and then I took them off my week, and I'm like, I don't like that.
But it's probably kids always be losing their babies. Of course, yeah. So, good question. Also, as a reminder, Memorial Park is a public park, right? So there's a whole lot that goes into those discussions. And Laura and I had a conversation with the city yesterday about kind of what's happening in that space. So, I've actually been doing a little bit of research into not recess, but bus monitoring. side.
I heard it, but I didn't hear it.
Might have been. Here's what I'm sincerely concerned about. A lot of our parents have what I'm going to refer to as a strong sense of justice. Is that fair? Okay. By the way, I can smell my own. You're here. As a school employee and a school official, I don't ever mind getting onto somebody else's child. I don't like it, but I know that that's part of my responsibility when they're doing something they're not supposed to do that's against the code of conduct. Follow? That's not your role as a volunteer. And I'm concerned about if you're at recess, not you, but anyone, admonishing somebody else's child because the other parent who's not there seeing what is going on and all of that dynamic might have a different perspective when their child comes home and says, yeah, Susie's mom got on to me because, like, whoa, what? Susie's mom works for the school? No, she was just there. Okay. If we can figure out a way for our parent volunteers to support the teacher so that maybe if something's happening that is not supposed, but do you see like the nuance of what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah.
If you could free up the teacher to go deal with the situation and monitor, that I would be okay with, for sure. But you'll have to fight a lot of your instinct if someone else's child puts hands on, I don't know, your kid. Right? It's in that moment, it is very, very challenging for you to not be mom. And I respect that.
What about if you're not allowed to volunteer for your kids' recess?
Well, and so like that,
Yeah.
that is right.
I mean, really.
But that probably needs
The bus monitor
yeah,
thing,
that's
right. But the bus monitor thing doesn't really work like that because why would you ride another bus with your kid?
So how would you be riding the bus with your child?
Right.
Yeah.
But when I've looked at, I don't know, court cases about this, if there's training that we can provide volunteers and then a way that they can not react to something happening and support the teacher. So in the cases, like if the bus driver is the person who's getting onto the kids, then the monitor is absolved of whatever, the volunteer. It's called something else when it's a volunteer. It's not a bus monitor, it's like a bus safety, I don't know, you know. And I'm willing for us to look at something similar like that for recess too, although it doesn't, you know, you want to see your kid in action. Well, yeah, but if we could maybe figure out a way for volunteers to be at recess, not attached to your child's class, perhaps, or
Right, no, in that instance, I'm just concerned with, like, maybe the recess volunteer could literally just be posted up in the little area where the gates open, and their job is just to scan the perimeter, make sure that no team or child is leaving the playground, and like, that's their job. You know, I mean, something like, I think there's a very black and white responsibilities just pertaining to the immediate safety of the whole collective. That's my, that's where my mind goes in that situation. So in that situation, sure, I don't know, use some kind of action, to make sure my kid's not going to play with someone's baby in the parking lot.
your expectations are great. This is typing. There's babies everywhere. No, that sounds reasonable, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I think if we're talking about specific areas where we might save someone to just monitor like that, certainly makes sense. And that might be something that extends beyond like 30 minutes. It might be for a collective of like 90 minutes in the hot sun to kind of stand out there. But yeah, for
Well,
sure.
that's delegated to the
Well,
parents, and that's their.
And that's what I was thinking, like, that seems like teacher, more of a teacher, like,
Starting route to
basis.
honor.
And, it's a discussion, you know, if, I would like to have.
Yeah.
One thing I started doing last year directly with Holly was I would just meet them in the library, so I was already there for story time with my younger kid, and then I could just help half the group find books while she read to them, or vice versa, you know? And I didn't, you know, really want to read it, but just help them find stuff.
Thank you for saying that, because I want to wrap up this like whole thing we've been talking about today in the sense that volunteers they really are empowered to just teach, which is so different than in other places. And so anything that a volunteer can do to provide support and management and supervision and care that allows the teacher to teach is amazing, because they're truly trying to do the best that they can, and their best is phenomenal. But even being able to offset some of that so that they can concentrate and focus on a smaller group of kids at one time is the most valuable thing volunteers can do for us. Yes.
How is it handled on field trips? So like, I know I went to the Botanical Gardens with second grade, with Bert's class, and so I was in charge of a group of kids. So how was, like, it's kind of the same thing, like not being at recess, but, I mean, we're there, so like, if, Bert was putting his hands on somebody, or picked two other kids, I don't know, not my child, 'cause I would handle him, but, two other arbitrary kids in the class. How, I mean, I didn't go and get the teacher, I didn't go and get Miss Huber, that was, my job to make sure that they were following all the rules and, using all their LYP and everything like that, even when we're off campus. So is that just, it was just understood an expectation, it was just, natural to do. Obviously they'd be like putting my
And Kim,
corner
I
or
would say,
anything like that, so like,
reminding kids of that is
Yeah.
absolutely responsible to
Right.
volunteer. But if something had happened where a kid got injured
Sure.
because they were fighting,
right, well.
I wouldn't expect you to be like, well, you're suspended for 3 days. Like, that's
No,
not.
no, it's just like it's summer, like the lines get a little crossed, like, like with, during the recess, that, it's kind of, I guess, because you're off campus, you take on a different role a little bit.
For
I
sure.
don't know,
If
it's-
you are, because our volunteers who have clearance, a lot of them are cleared to be alone with
With
children.
kids, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I
So
think
then
part of
those
that is
situations
that
arise.
supervision expectation.
When you're off campus, it's different than when you're on campus, I feel like, a little bit, because you are not around. You have a group, but when you're at the zoo,
Right.
you, the two parents are in charge of these kids, and just.
And, making
4
sure
or 5,
no
something.
one's, in danger for
Right,
another,
right,
for
right,
another.
yeah,
And,
how is
just
that?
contacting the teacher immediately. Usually
Yeah.
they share phone numbers and stuff, and then having the teacher take one of those children or something, so then they're separated for the remainder of the trip,
Yeah.
and letting the teacher handle the.
Teachers, I think, also do a good job reminding students about the behavioral expectations of an
Right.
off-campus field trip. I mean, there's a lot of prep in that. I do not like telling kids they can't go on trips, but I have told kids, or like, you can only go if your parent goes with you,
Right,
and
right.
your parent is only going to supervise you. I mean,
Right.
that kind of stuff for sure. But yes, if it were something egregious that happened, then separating those kids, but it's still, I wouldn't think, nor would I think the other parents would think, that the volunteer was the person that was
Right,
dealing
that's
with
right.
all of those
Yeah.
things. That at some point it is deferred back to the teacher for the teacher to handle. The teacher communicates with the other families, with administration, that kind of thing.
And the teachers have been good at what I've noticed, like strategically putting groups together that are going to be cohesive and kind, and not rambunctious, and separating, and that's.
Yeah, they put a lot
They do
of
make it nice and enjoyable for the volunteers.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, all volunteers have to have parents, right? You're not a volunteer unless you did that.
So, in that process though, we know sort of where people are based on what we get through this stuff. And it could be that you're okay, like right now, a volunteer on campus under supervision versus full clearance that has already gone through and we know you can be along with kids.
Right.
So
Meaning
there's
the process is not finished.
not
meaning, like,
entirely, right.
Okay.
Then they would not be left alone, though.
Right.
I was curious, how often do you have to go in and do this stuff?
I believe it expires every 3 years.
Every year, okay.
I think.
I read that too.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, I'm gonna keep on going. We are over time. I will mention one thing. So just real quick, for successful volunteering, communication, being reliable. Obviously things come up, you might have to back out last minute, but, just being consistent if you can. And if you can't, communicating that, right? We had an instance earlier this year where that had to happen, and things happen, right? So it does happen, and then, categories that were on the parent interest form earlier this year. This is a link to that form that I think a lot of you have filled out. But that is where you can sign up. You know, I want to receive emails to volunteer at the fishing tournament or something like that.
That's probably where the more specific would come in. Like clearly you know what a lunch volunteer, but what is family engagement planning and what is team ambassador?
Right. There's descriptions on the form. Yeah.
People don't know. That's why it's difficult to.
Right. But on this form, there's descriptions.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you go to the form. And then get Vista approved, right? That's that background check. I do have a spreadsheet with all people fill out volunteers, but I do keep track of that. And so if you have not, just make sure you scan that QR code. It's on the Savannah Chatham website. And then, so something that I am trying to implement this year because I have like the back end Vista and I can see, and I'm a little bit competitive. And I can see other schools and how many volunteer hours that they have with people logging their hours, and Tina needs to be up there because I know we have a ton of volunteers. So what I want to start implementing this year is people logging their hours. So we played around with it actually yesterday during lunch volunteers. So if you log into your Vista, and at the top, you go to My Log Time, and bring it down and click My Log Time again, you can enter a new log entry. Okay, a lot of them are like, so some schools, they have like approved volunteers for their school, and they'll just like, the way we have lunch volunteers sign up through Sign Up Genius, they'll just blast it out to everyone. But we're being a little more categorized, or putting certain volunteer opportunities to people who are interested. So we put ours out there a little differently and not through Vista. So you go to new log entry, and then you can just fill out this form, and you just explain, like, I was what was it called on there, Lara? Do you remember? It was like
Lunch
cafeteria
buddy.
monitor or something. And it's like a whole bunch of options. And then you can write a little description, like lunch volunteer, and then you put your dates and times. You can actually, if you in May, you're like, oh no, I haven't logged any of my hours. You can bulk hours. You knew you came in every week for lunch volunteers. You can log it in. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind being a little competitive with the other school.
People may be padding their hours in their school.
This is true.
Think about that.
We backlog all our hours last
Hey,
year.
I think so.
We can only operate with integrity.
Yeah.
Like, can we back on? That's a good thing. Can we go back to like last year?
For sure, absolutely. It'll let you put in whatever you want. So do whatever you want.
We've been having to put stuff.
This is volunteering. But so I do actually. I have a volunteer badges that I've made with a QR code on the back that takes you actually to the wrong link. So I got to fix those. But it takes you like Catawba County or something. I don't even know how that happened. But I do. So it's on the back of the volunteer badge, so you can just boop, and then. So trying to make it easy. I mean, just a little bit, because also on this website, I was like, I should screenshot this, but I don't want to put anybody's names up there. But it shows, like, if we were to pay these people, how much it would have costed the school.
Ooh, I like that.
Did you know that? Have you ever seen it? Garrison man saved like $80,000 or something.
It's also really good to put in grants.
I know, but so anyway, that's just me. Anyway, that was so I would really, really love it if we could start instituting, logging our hours. It's just great to track, like Laura said. It's great for grants and all kinds of stuff we have to do. So, but thank you.
So we're getting into the weeds here, but the last parent plug-in, someone mentioned wanting to have like a calendar on their phone. We talked about that. We're slowly getting things going here. So this will be published on the website on the calendar section later today. But it's basically just a Google Calendar, and it's got all of our events, as you can see, on there. And then if you click on this little plus Google Calendar on the bottom of it, it'll bring up add calendar. You add, and then it'll enable you is already, when you do this add step, it's already in there. And then as we update it on the back end, whether it's Miss Fleming or Miss Brown, Zinger or myself, it'll auto-populate on your phone calendar. So if you use an Android Google device and the Google Calendar, it automatically happens when you hit add. If you use an iPhone and want to add it to one of your iPhone calendars separate, then you just copy and paste that over the URL.
And this is only on the website, this won't be on the newsletter?
We can add a little maybe instructions link in the newsletter too. It is live, but it's like on the back page, so I just need to move it forward. Where it says calendar, I'm just gonna integrate it all in there so that we have the school calendar and then this one that you can import. Yeah, it's already got the calendar populated. So the school calendar's on there. We've put athletics on there. And events as they come up, we're adding them. So sure. What's that? No, it's not. Let me move it right now.
All right, so this is our time. We open the floor. Whatever you got to say it. If you have questions, concerns, thoughts, feedback, what's going on? How's school going? Great. Great. Yay.
Love the new third grade teacher.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that was wonderful. 31 years, former principal. She's doing pretty good. Yeah.
Always talk about lunch monitor. Second grader,
So that's actually at teacher discretion. We let the teachers decide where they think the class is on eating in the classroom. I mean, eating in the lunch room. Second grade in particular, Ms. Conley and Ms. Huber, if you've been in their classrooms, you know, like they're very community. They're very, they both start with eating every day. It's very, calendar math and all of this is very much a communal sort of, and they just elect to have the kids in the classroom. And then our requirement is you can't just bring your kids if they've never eaten in the cafeteria because they don't know how to act in here. They're like, if they've only eaten in the classroom, they kind of lose their mind. So it's possible that they'll eat in the cafeteria at other times during the year as we get acclimated with that. But at the beginning of the year, for sure, it's teacher discretion. If they don't want to do that, they don't.
They were here yesterday.
Yeah, so on Wednesdays, the point of the volunteers is so teachers can have a break for that time during, so, typically they come on Wednesdays.
Yeah, I mean, Kayla, thank you for saying that because it reminds me of something that maybe you guys are not, it's not top of mind. In some schools, teachers get what is called a duty-free lunch, right? Where like for 30 minutes they just eat on their own. That sounds crazy. We set up planning here so the teachers have about an hour and 45 minutes of planning blocked every day. We do that so they can collaborate and build curriculum and design instruction together, right? And we do it in grade bands, grade 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then middle grades. All that is by design, but it does mean that they don't get a duty-free lunch. They're with their kids for the rest of the time. Having volunteers gets them to a place where they can have once or twice a week 30 minutes where they can just eat or do anything. We had a colleague that would take that time to nurse and she would eat lunch during her planning later in the day, right? But whatever it is, it's 30 minutes that they get. And in other places they might get that, but here we run our schedule a little different. So just want you guys to know that. That's kind of how lunch volunteering became a big deal for us.
And to piggyback on that, when we were here yesterday, like the 5th grade teachers, like, you got it? Like, hand me my, the clipboard. They were, but it was a good
Directions for us, they're like.
you want to know you're helpful. Like, you're not just like here because you're supposed to,
Oh no.
It was
it's a big
really
deal.
like an appreciated thing.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that was,
they were,
that,
yeah. You got it, we'll leave.
yeah.
You can make clipboard,
They
I
had
know
the
that they're
kids
not.
so trained.
Yeah.
It was, I was like taking notes.
Yeah.
I was like, I need to let this at home.
And we did say to her, she's like, I'm gonna mention that at, I guess, in like the team meeting, that like, if there are specific things that when like, kindergarten and first graders are in here, that like, Ms. Bartlom and all of them have put in place for their students to, that they know to do, if we can continue that in their absence on those Wednesdays, what they know to do. They get dismissed by tables when they go throw away the trash, they have to, fingers crossed, hand raised, go to the bathroom, and, you know, so we could continue on with that. It wasn't free for all on, but,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
The calendar is live now.
Anything else?